Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. I'm so excited today. We are talking with Keith Finch about his exciting new Kickstarter for MORPHODROIDS, the cool AF comic book that he has going on right now. You're about two-thirds of the way funded, so hopefully this helps to push you over the edge. It's such a cool project. It deserves to be funded, and it looks like you're doing pretty well so far. So without further ado, please help me welcome Keith Finch to the show, here to talk about his new book, MORPHODROIDS. How you doing, Keith?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Michael.
You're welcome. So I guess there's, let's see, by the time this goes up, there'll probably be, we're about what, halfway through? Or no, not
We're
even.
we're a little over a week in. It was a 30-day campaign, so roughly 20-ish days remaining at this point.
All right, so do you want to tell everybody what the MORPHODROIDS comic book is about? Give us your little elevator pitch here.
Yeah, I hope this is like a 30-story building, not a three-story building, because the elevator pitch is a little long. Morphodroids is, as it currently stands, a 96-page introduction in comic book form to what was a mid 80s transforming robot toy line. It pulls out elements from Transformers, the mystery of X Files, the kids and their hijinks from Stranger Things, and kind of throws it into a great blender. And yeah, trying to build a complete package here where you've got 30 pages of comics. You've got a ton of supplemental material with character profiles. You've got, conspiracy theory type documents throughout. Just trying to build a really immersive world in this first issue.
Well, just as interesting as the book itself is kind of the origin of how it came about and what inspired you to want to make the book. It's almost like what's the found footage in a way kind of situation. So do you want to explain how you discovered the property and what inspired you to want to tackle it?
Yeah, so I was at home during COVID, packaging up, rebagging and boarding books, and I kept seeing this ad on the back of Marvel Comics, and like, what are these toys? I've never heard of them. I was 10 years old when they came out. I should have at least been aware. Um, so, kind of go down an internet rabbit hole. You start doing a search and find more people who are like, what are these things? That seem to be the prevailing notion. And then from there, you start looking up the company that made them. You find some government documents and the name of the person who ran the company. And eventually, I found one message board post where the guy had responded to something Morphodroids related. So from there, kind of reached out to him with, "Hey, this I find this interesting. Uh, would there be an opportunity to do something with it?" And we were able to work out a deal.
It's equally fascinating to me because I figure we're around the same age from the same generation. I was reading comic books in the 80s and I too was like, what the hell is this? I feel like I'm so familiar with like so many of the ads and so many of, like the hostess ads and the basketball ads and OJ Simpson and just like so many things like that.
Yeah,
And Morphodroids did not ring a bell for me at all. And I thought it's kind of interesting because in a way, it's while it's a very cool name, it's almost hard to say. You know what I mean? It's like you have to almost like say it slowly to say it correctly, Morphodroids, or else risk tripping over your own tongue. But that said, like it's very cool. It's very like would be on trend. Certainly, well, I guess GoBots has a more simple kind of automatic appeal to the sound, but that was making me think like, God, is this a Mandela effect or something? Did this not really exist until Keith discovered it? So, but it did exist. you were able to track down the original owner who gave you his blessing or worked out a deal or whatever.
Yeah,
So that's really cool.
yeah,
Uh,
and it wasn't just an ad that was in random books. It was on the back cover of, almost all the books that Marvel put out in December of '85. So, yeah, it was kind of one of those a head scratcher that there's this thing that obviously somebody put some thought into the marketing behind it, but completely under the radar for the majority of people who would or should have known.
yeah. It's so crazy to me. Now, what's your experience been in talking to people? Has anyone approached you and been like, "Oh yeah, I had this toy," or "I totally remember this"? Not really, huh?
Well, I've had actually I've been on a couple of interviews this last week, and they're like, "Yes, I had these toys as a kid. I've completely forgotten about them, but I talked to my cousin, and yes, he remembered them too." Um, so I think it is unlocking some maybe dormant memories that people had.
So you discover this property and you're like, this definitely should be a comic book. And I really, like I said, thanks for sharing the preview with me. And I love how you put it together. I love um, how you used a lot of original or as much original material as probably was available to you and mixed it with this great new story that's, I guess you describe it as kid friendly or all ages rather.
Yeah,
Um, um, which is in line for it, which kind of makes sense since it's a comic book that was marketed towards children's toys, right? Um, although, was there any what do you call it? Did you have any like desire to go in the more modern sort of Transformers, Daniel Warren Johnson kind of way?
I I mean, that's obviously an influence. He's done a great job on that line, but I wanted this to be its own thing. And honestly, I've been working on this for 4 or 5 years. So the work predated what Daniel was doing on Transformers. But um, as far as the all ages slant to it, the way I've approached this project is it would be something great for a parent to read with their kid, the comic book part. But then if the parent took it back and said, okay, I'm really going to dive into this back matter and really start putting the mystery together, there's a deeper level of understanding of what this world is and could be.
Yeah, well, I think perhaps a way you have worked in the modern edgy approach is through your pinup gallery, which has some really cool, striking images from a lot of super talented folks that I've had the pleasure of having on some of my projects. Do you want to tell us about some of that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the two of us have been connected, I think, through cartoonist kayfabe community. That was kind of the connective tissue, and that's where I connected with a lot of the folks who contributed pinups. One of them that I wanted to, I guess, shine a spotlight on was Chris Anderson. When this was just the speck of an idea, I talked to Chris, and he's like, "Hey, let me do a bit of concept art for this." And that's, I think, really indicative to how awesome the comics community can be at times. That people, they may not know you from anywhere, but you're working on something that seems kind of interesting, and they want to contribute. So yeah, Chris was on board. I pulled in some folks from Transformers fandom who had done Transformers fan artwork. Um, there were people for like Ben Dunn from Antarctic Press did a pinup. He's got a 40-year history in comics. There's folks who this is really their first published work. So my approach, especially when it came to pinups, was I wanted to create a buffet of visual imagery that there was something here for everyone. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Chris contributed. Gonzalo Bateman, he's done some Transformers work. Jason Barons is one of our kayfabe folks. Ben Granoff, who I think Ben and I have worked together on 3 or 4 projects here and there. And then just, I've got Travis Knight, who, as of the time we're recording this, he just had a big social media explosion with, he did a Cracker Barrel Nosferatu logo design. And like Stephen King is tweeting about it.
It's
So,
really cool. I've seen it. I mean, it's totally iconic. Like
yeah,
if it puts him on the map, well deserved.
yeah. He's a local guy, super talented. And then, Milo Trent, I think we've both worked with Milo. He did a really great pinup based out of, as a San Diego Comic Con scenario. But yeah, overall, 20 plus people contributed to the project in some way, form, or fashion. So a lot of voices coming together to sing what I hope is a pretty sweet song.
Yes, I do like the collaborative aspect of the cartoonist kayfabe community, and it's always fun. Milo is amazing. His pinup definitely stands out as one of my favorites, and your batch of pinups, also Ben Granoff. Nobody brings texture to the page like Ben, and I just love what he did with the visual. It was really different and also stood out. Ray Whitaker's piece is really fun. Another guy I've worked with, Ben Dunn, was in my Elementals book. So yeah, it's also incestuous as well. But we're no fool. I mean, if we have the opportunity to get a chance to work with some talented folks and elevate our projects, why not, right? I mean, the pinup you did for me for my next project, my follow-up to my Lady Gaga comic book, was completely unexpected. I had a blast coloring it, and it's easily one of my favorite pieces now. So you just never know where, collaborations or inspiration is going to come from. And that's truly the joy of like comic books. You know what I mean?
Yeah, none of us are getting rich off of any of this monetarily. It's about doing something that's artistically, creatively rewarding, and making connections with cool people and having fun. That's what I'm here for anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to make money. I feel like you're either at the top of the heap like a Jim Lee, or you're where we are. And we're just doing it for fun. And
Yeah.
it's like I used to be kind of like uppity about, wanting to make sure everybody got paid and it was all fair and stuff. But unfortunately, that's just not how it is. You know what I mean? And it's like, even though it kills me sometimes to like take free art from people, it's like, it kills me even more to have to pay for those contributor copies that you have to mail out. No, I'm just kidding. Um, I just, it's weird. I mean, art should be paid for and handsomely at that. But, like we said, comics is such a niche thing anyway that it's like when people get a little, I mean, not to go off on some tangent, but when people get a little too like, I mean, don't you know what you signed up for? It's like there's no 401k, there's no, you know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not saying you shouldn't do comics, but you
Right.
but comics is definitely one of those things that should be a passion driven thing and not necessarily a money driven thing because you might be disappointed or just be smart about it. You know what I mean? Do your own IP. Um, it's like I did my elementals, you're doing this MORPHODROIDS. Obviously, these are passion projects because we don't own the copyrights or anything. So um, it's definitely smarter to do something. Like Mike Mignola seems like such a shining example of how to do it right. You know what I mean? Create your own comic book universe, and then you get to do all these amazing comics and reap the benefits of it as well monetarily. So there's something to
Yeah.
be said about that.
Eastman and Laird, that's kind of the pinnacle of, doing it yourself and it turning into something awesome. I think that's, as a creator, there's probably an element of that in the back of most of our minds. Wouldn't it be awesome if this did turn into that? But to your point, being realistic about the industry, the reality of, you're working in a smaller pond than it was, a generation ago, and knowing the risk and potential rewards going into it, and just having your eyes open and your ears up for the reality of it's really the way to go. Otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for heartache after heartache.
Gee, I bet you could say the same thing about life in general, really, just there, what
Yeah,
you just said.
yeah, yeah,
For
yeah,
sure.
absolutely.
So what is the plan with the MorphoDroids? Is this kind of a one and done, or would you like to do another one, or is it, do you have other projects that you're interested to pursue after this, or have you even thought about it? I know it's so much work and it's like you're in the eye of the storm. And I mean, gosh, as I just got done with my first solo um, Kickstarter, it's so time consuming. It's such a huge pain in the ass, and it can be lonely sometimes too. So, God bless us all for doing it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
I think people think it's just literally asking for people for money, but it's really not. You know what I mean?
no, there's as much that goes into the Kickstarter part of it as there is in the creating the end product. But the overall goal with this project is, one, you got to get the first one done. You got to get it distributed, but it's written in a way that it's a 6 issue arc. The hope is, there's continued support and we can see that through to the end. And then, you kind of take a look at the landscape and see how, what the prospects are for future editions, and take it from there. Of course, there's other things that I would like to do if this does well, or even if it doesn't. So, regardless of how this pans out, my days of doing comic stuff are not over. There's always a backlog of projects waiting to be done. So, yeah, um, I'm still doing design and lettering work on other people's projects. Maybe one day we'll get Death Slinger 2
Death
together.
Slinger. Yeah, I was gonna. That was one of my questions. Obviously, Death Slinger is one of your big projects with Shane Berryhill and Ben Perkins, two amazing talents. I love Gunslinger from Cosmic Lion Productions. I reviewed it on my channel. Um, and I think I even complimented your lettering, which is always on point. So, what other projects have you been involved in? Surely there must be some.
Those are
Or
the big ones. That was really the big one. I mean, I've done, one pages in the Batman Year Wah
yeah,
book. I'm trying to think. I lettered some of the big Granoff stuff in the 1963 book. There's been little things here and there, but Death Slinger was definitely the biggest prior to this. This is the first thing that I've kind of been the captain of the ship on, writing, coloring, lettering, designing, doing pretty much everything but the line work.
but you're a graphic designer by for your day job or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. By
Yeah,
trade, that's
by
my
trade is what I meant to say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's not a bad skill set to have when you're trying to put together a book. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
obviously not. I know I wish I had a little more graphic design training under my belt, but hey, YouTube tutorials go a long way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the tools are definitely more easily approachable and easier to use than they would have been 20 years ago, even.
Yeah, for sure. I know to think that I've been able to basically create two huge books from scratch with an iPhone and an iPad is kind of amazing. So I think
Yeah,
that it's definitely a good time to be a comic book creator if you want to be one, because anyone can do it. Should they? But probably not. But yeah, no, I mean, there are a lot of great comic book projects out there. So, what are some of the perks or whatever of your Kickstarter?
yeah. So I tried to keep this super simple. This is my first Kickstarter, so there's not a wide variety of perks. There's an $8 digital copy. If you're like, hey, I don't need it printed, just drop it in my inbox. That's $8. $25 gets you a printed copy of if you count the cover pages, it's 100 pages of content plus the PDF. Beyond that, then you start getting into retailer tiers, which those are a little more complicated, but there's like a baseline retailer tier where they can get 5 copies of the book, along with a little shelf talker, a poster for their store, and custom little inserts with their store logo on it. And then there's a version that has 10 copies of the same. It's at a deeper discount. So those, just being fully transparent, when you're selling wholesale at this kind of scale, the creator, we're not really making anything on it. It's more for just getting the book out into an audience that might otherwise not have been exposed to it. Beyond that, there's some add-ons. So, like, I'm offering homage cover, original art. If you are a creator and you're like, hey, do something with my creation, but I want it to an homage to the Amazing Spider-Man 300, I'm offering that. We're also offering cameo spots in the next issue. So the script's already written. It's ready to go. So we're giving people the opportunity to be part of the MORPHODROIDS universe in some small way. So yeah, that's pretty much it. It's pretty, as far as Kickstarter campaigns go, it's built for speed and efficiency as much as we could.
So what do you want to tell us about, or like about like what the new story is about? Like, how did you approach that, and where did you think, what made you decide what direction to go with what you did?
Yeah, so the toys themselves are, they have a tethered remote control, and as you start thinking about, okay, well, how do I make that into an interesting comic? The thought of connection was a theme that I wanted to carry through. So, without giving away the full story, we start out in issue 1 with a group of ragtag kids who are hanging out in the junkyard that's right next to their trailer park that they live in. Sorry, my computer keeps going to sleep. Um, and they discover this thing that activates one of the morphodroids. From there, they kind of go on a discovery of what are these things, what's the history behind them. The actual robot has some memory loss, so they're all in it together to try to find out the truth behind the morphodroids. We're also introduced to 8 other morphodroids. There were 9 total in the original toys. Um, they're in different parts of the United States doing different things. And then at the end, we get introduced to the evil industrialist, Mr. Moore, who has been pulling the strings behind the scenes for years. So that's in a nutshell what the storyline for issue 1 is as far as the comic goes. I think, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of government documents, things from more industries about where they've been tracking these creatures over time. There's also a lot of exclusive information about the toys themselves. Having access to the guy who created them. I interviewed him. That gets included in the book like it's part of a congressional investigation. Um, and there's things like wholesale sales sheets from the toys, which if you're into obscure 80s robot toys, that kind of thing might be right up your alley, just to see kind of like if how these companies sold things to their retailer partners.
Now you accused me of not liking back matter in comic books, and I had to go rewatch my review of Gunslinger. And what to qualify, I'm not a fan of a bunch of prose in comic book. Like for example, uh, I don't know. Like, I just don't want to read a novel after I'm
Yeah,
done reading a comic. I'm in it for the visuals. However, I love the supplemental material you've worked into the book. I think it's fascinating. I think it's so cool. I love seeing like the old ads. I love seeing the concept art. I think it makes it just like a whole complete package. And I find that kind of stuff fascinating. You know what I mean? Because you didn't like it would have been different if you wrote like you were writing the origin of one of the robots and it was like 3 pages of prose. That's what I mean.
yeah.
That kind of stuff. But I just don't. I just am too ADD for that. But that said, like I love the historical stuff and I mean it's so clear. You said you've been working on this for 4 or 5 years, and I
Yeah.
think it shows like the attention to detail and the amount of care and thought you put into it. It looks very well. It seems like a very well thought out project from start to finish. It's very comprehensive and inclusive, and you left no crumbs, as the kids say.
Well, thanks for saying that. Yeah, the last thing I wanted somebody to do is plunk down their $25 and one, either think, wow, that was a lot of money for not a lot of value, or two, it's clear that they just put this stuff in here to pad out a page count, because really everything in there is either intentional to plant a seed for a future story, or it's planting a seed for a misdirection for a future story. So there's nothing in there that's I would call total fat, that if it got cut, it wouldn't be missed at some point.
Well, that is good. Is there anything else about the project you want to tell us about before we wrap up here today?
Well, just in general, I would love for folks to go out and support it. The ideal situation is we hit the funding goal, we can check that box and start moving into, okay, that's great. Now, what can we add on? I'm talking to some folks about adding on some pretty cool extra material, stuff that's never seen print before. Um, Maybe some other little add-ons. Normally, I want the extras to be in the book, but some little stickers and fun stuff like that. It's a nice little add-on. I've started collecting stickers from all the stuff I've been getting, and they are all around my drafting table. So it's nice to have those little reminders of the folks that you've supported and that support you. So yeah, yeah. I would just, if it seems remotely interesting, then at least drop in for the $8 for the digital copy and get a chance to review it for yourself.
Well, viewers of my channel know that I'm always exposing them to the hidden gems, and I have impeccable taste in comic books, and I 100% stand behind your comic book. I think it's really amazing, and I think that people definitely will be excited and surprised about it. I just think there's so much great, fun content for everybody, and it's just like an overall great project. We're a little over a week into it and a little over two-thirds of the way there. So I definitely think you will meet your goal, and I hope you surpass it big time because I know every penny counts in these situations. And I congratulate you for making such an amazing project. And, I look forward to reviewing it on my channel in the future, hopefully.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, as far as the goal goes, the goal's there to get this issue printed, shipped out the door. Anything over that helps us make the next issue in a much quicker fashion. Nobody wants to wait another 4 years for another issue of this. So the more over that goal we can get, the quicker we can get issue two cranking.
Sounds awesome. All right, you guys, you heard it here. So MorphOdroids is the Kickstarter that you all need to support and check out. There will be links in the description of the video. You only have a few weeks left. Get on board. Don't delay. And thanks so much for talking about the project with us today, Keith. Hang out for a second. I'll say a proper goodbye.
Yeah,
Um, are there any links that people should go to? Is there a website for MorphoDroids or?
yeah. If they go to morphodroids.com, it's MORPHODROIDS.com. Right now, it's redirecting straight to the Kickstarter campaign. So if they don't have the full URL, morphodroids.com will get on there.
Did it exist before the Kickstarter, or is that something you put together to help promote?
I
Or
put, yeah, I put it together to help. In non-campaign times, it's going to go to I have a fullservicecomics.com, and that URL will redirect there. So regardless of when you hit it, it's going to go to something cool.
all right, everybody. So go out and support MorphoDroids Kickstarter today. Thanks so much for being here, Keith. I really appreciate it.
Thanks,
And
Michael.
all right, so subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button, and I will bring you more soon. Bye, guys.